Hello and welcome to our Monday edition of Corn-Fed Sports in the Morning here. I'm Pat Raddigan. I'm the publisher and founder here at Corn-Fed Sports. Joining me is my Monday co-host, Gage Peak. Gage, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing good. We've got some things hammered down. We're into our more routine things here at Corn-Fed Sports. Sorry we started a little late. Wanted to just make sure all the things were working right, that we had a strong signal and some of the little things. Right. Then we also got a last-minute suggestion for video from the Nebraska softball team. So in segment 2, you'll see some of the light moments from the Nebraska softball team's opening weekend.
I think they always have light moments.
They always have a little bit of fun. So we'll jump right in. We'll go right to our Husker headlines here. So we'll start with the Nebraska men's basketball team. Nebraska was able to defend their home turf this Saturday night. They took down Penn State 67-53 at the Devaney Center. You were there. What did you see?
Actually, it was an interesting game because there were so many foul shots. When you think of Nebraska basketball, you don't think of free throws, and that was the one thing I noticed. There was really never a big flow to the game. It was the refs were calling it really tight, and the game was just so long.
Both two teams who want to win that bad.
Yes,
two teams who are looking for something. That's the kind of stuff you see.
And I saw, today I saw Pat Chambers had a press conference today, and he talked about how he would love to have Brandon Ubell on his team, and I thought that was a cool moment for him.
Yeah, he talked about how much of a leader he was, how he's really bought into the program, how he didn't. The one thing I thought was really significant, he didn't look like that when he showed up.
Yes.
So little things like that just show how hard work and some of those things really pay off.
And people are noticing it. So
Ubell 14 points, 9 rebounds yesterday, one of 3 Huskers in double figures. Ray Gallegos got it connected on 3 3-pointers, so they added a little bit to tally. They gave Nebraska a little bit more instead of just that leading score. So Nebraska's able to get the win. They got back to 500.
Right.
The tough part now will be staying there, so we'll see how that goes. So we'll get to more of that. We have Nebraska. We have a men's basketball and women's gymnastics breakdown coming in our later segments. So we'll get to more of that. But without further ado, we'll move on to our next, the other segment that we'll be featuring later. And another team that took down Penn State this weekend. The Nebraska women's gymnastics team dominated Penn State on Pack the House Day at the Devaney Center. Posted a season high not only for a team, but season high on 2 different events as a team, and then 3 of the event winners on the night for the Huskers also posted season best en route to winning their event, with Janelle Giblin tying a career high at 9.95 on the bars again. And I'm happy that I used the hashtag This Girl Is On Fire before the Alicia Keys performance last night, because that was pretty awesome at the Grammys. But they were, all of them were on fire all the way straight through. Even when they had a slip-ups, you could see the look in the eyes of the other athletes change, and they just made sure that if somebody messed up on an event, the other 5 were all going to count, and they were all going to push it above 49 on every single score. Like I said, we'll get into more of that. Yesterday I actually went through and I projected what would be a good number for Nebraska, and they dominated all those numbers. So I'm going to show you exactly how they exceeded their averages, exceeded the expectations you could have had for them in the young season, and where the ceiling kind of is for that team. So big win for Nebraska yesterday. Moved up a spot in the national rankings, but that's an average thing. If they have a couple more meets along these lines, they'll keep sliding on up. So we'll go back to more of that later. But for our Husker Headlines segment, we'll move on to the Nebraska softball team, who had a successful first weekend on the road.
5-0.
5-0 ties the best start for the program since 2003. Not just 5-0, but did it in convincing style.
A lot of the bats were working this weekend,
and not just working and providing, but efficiency.
Yes.
Kylie Murray gets a 6.36 average. Bats in 4 RBIs. Taylor Edwards, 15 RBIs, 3 homers, hitting .556 the entire weekend. Both of them had slugging percentages over 1,000%. And the third person on the team with a slugging percentage over 1,000% just so happened to go 4-0 on the weekend with a 1.94 ERA in the mound, and that's Tatum Edwards, who hit 3 homers herself.
I believe she had a grand slam, too, if I'm not mistaken.
So the Nebraska softball team made the most of their weekend, and they're just going to keep going. So
this is early part of the season. They're going to be traveling a lot, so we'll see how they go. Once again, this grind of the season.
The nice part is that last year they showed, obviously they beat Arizona last year around the year, and they had some of those times, but they showed how the travel wore on them at times, and it was kind of up and down. But to have a clean weekend and have a complete weekend like this, it's big for the team.
It's key to, for a Big Ten team like Nebraska, you're up in the north, and southern schools, they play, year-round. We're just starting, we practice inside a lot, and so we got to get used to it. So
definitely.
We'll see how they go.
Like I said, we had a late submission. They got stuck in the Denver airport, and they had a little fun with some videos and some things. Absolutely. So we have the light, hard moments coming up in our second segment. But for now, we'll wrap up our headlines here with the Nebraska track and field team, who was able to down Alabama and North Carolina in both the men's and team titles this weekend at the Mark Colligan Memorial Invite at the Devaney track.
Once again, Margriva, she wins long jump and triple jump. Mara Weeks wins the 60-meter dash and then the 200-meter dash in pretty convincing fashion. And then last but not least, James White comes in, high jump 7'3". I mean, he's going to be key for our men's team each and every meet. He can get points for us every time.
Anytime you can go out and get that many event titles, do that many big things.
Right.
Annie Jackson had a personal best, won the shot put, and she's 5th in the Big Ten on that right now. Won the other weight throws, has somebody who's 6th in the conference right now in there. Like you said, Marigriva, and they also swept the men's pole vault top 3. But the guy who won it for Nebraska, Husker Craig Driver, also set a personal best. So not only are they going out there and winning, probably they should have won some of the events. There's not as contested with some of those teams, but at the same time, they went out there, they took care of business, and pushed themselves and went for some personal best. So it's good for the Nebraska track and field team. Tomorrow we're going to have, and we'll probably do this for most weeks, where we're going to have an Olympic sport breakdown. We'll look at some more of the Olympic sports close up tomorrow. So we'll look at the track and field team, we'll look at the tennis teams, look at some of those different teams tomorrow. So we'll have Nebraska softball in our next segment here, and we'll have a Husker Hoops video as well. It's a little bit of fun. So we'll have some lighthearted moments here with our second segment. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back in a couple minutes here for Corn-Fed Sports in the Morning. All right, we're back here now with Corn-Fed Sports in the Morning. As you know, from time to time, we like to get a little silly around these parts. I don't know if you guys...
I think it's 100% of the time.
Yeah, that's most of the time. There's probably about 20% of the time where we take ourselves seriously and we think that, we're big-time sports personalities, and we start discussing things, and then we start talking about some more ridiculous things and start playing Mario Kart. So eventually we'll realize where our niche is, but I don't know if you can see from the pictures. We like to have fun here at Corn-Fed Sports. So not only do we like to have fun, but as you've probably seen from social media and some of the viral things that have come out recently, Nebraska athletes and the teams like to have fun as well.
Who would have thought?
So we're going to present 2 different videos here today from 2 very different teams, but they both have some fun involved, and they're a little different setups in each of them.
Yeah.
But we're going to let you decide. We want to hear from you guys. We want to hear what you think is best, and tomorrow we'll come back with our consensus who we think won the viral contest today.
Right.
So we're going to start, like we said, Nebraska softball. They got stranded in the Denver airport, and they decided to get a little nutty with a human bicycle and utilizing a moving staircase pretty efficiently. So we'll just jump right in and let you see for yourselves.
Over Denver. It's about 11 o'clock, maybe 10 o'clock, one of those. It's just one of those nights, where you get kind of bored. Here it goes. Softball. Nebraska.
So there you saw it. Not only did they get their human bicycle out, my favorite part of the entire video is the interactivity and the turn and wave at something. And then I wish I could pull that off. I laughed too much.
You know, something it reminded me of. You know, remember the baseball team last year? They had the dance. I think they're like competing right now. See if the men's.
That's true. Although the baseball team did wind up on SportsCenter for the dancing segment, Jerry Rice.
Well, the tweet they want to get it on SportsCenter top 10. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
Yes.
I have high hopes, but that's pretty good.
No,
that's pretty
like
good.
Yeah.
And not to mention if SportsCenter looks at all at the numbers and you compare what they just did this weekend, and then they turn around and do that, and they can have that much fun. You gotta give them a little. Gotta give them
some love.
Gotta give them some love. SportsCenter. They had a good weekend. So let's hear it. So now we're gonna move on. This one a little more set up, a little more planned.
Also, it was very loud when it was going on because I was trying to work while they were doing it.
That is true. So it's not the best atmosphere to be typing up some post-game notes and quotes, but
typing notes, and then
that'll happen. So
on.
This is after Nebraska's win this weekend. Coach Tim Miles, one of my favorite parts of the Twitter world is whenever somebody says something, you get like 9 different perspectives of it. So already this morning, we've heard from everybody how Tim Miles didn't know what he was doing, didn't know what this dance was, just knew something for social media. He still pulls it off.
Yeah.
He still owns up to it and just runs with it.
The interesting thing is before we go to the video, he was sitting there doing his post-game radio show, and you'll see the crowd in the red zone. They were yelling at him, and I don't think before that he knew what was going on, and he just went over there and they did the video. So it was pretty interesting. I enjoyed
the Miles effect. So without letting Gage talk too much anymore, we'll just jump right into the Husker version of the Harlem Shake.
The Harlem Shake.
So there we have it. Harlem Shake, Tim Miles style, looking like a boss in the front row.
Absolutely.
I
think he gets Boss of the Week.
I think he probably should. I don't really know any other words to say. I wish I had something better, but he could probably put it way better than we could. So we'll let him explain himself the next time we see him.
The interesting thing was all the older people that were down there, taking pictures and video. They had no idea what that song was, which was funny to me because all of us, the younger kids up, we were working. We were laughing because they were doing it, but the older people are like, "What is this?"
But I bet they'll show each other 10 times more just because they have no idea what it is. So it's nice when ignorance leads to enthusiasm.
Yeah, so absolutely.
We want to hear from you what video you think was best. We post them later on our Twitter page so that you can just see it if you missed the show. But we have a debate between Husker hoops and Nebraska softball. The good news is that either way, you're not picking a bad team.
Can we pick one?
No, we'll save that. We'll save that.
Right.
We don't want to influence people. We gotta make this as fair as possible. So we'll make our own picks when we reveal the winner. But for now, we'll come back one more segment. We have a little discussion segment for men's basketball and women's gymnastics coming up after the break. So one more quick break, and then we'll wrap things up here at Corn-Fed Sports in the Morning. All right, so we're back here for our final segment. Just had our little in-house discussion of what we would pick, and like we said, we're not going to reveal. but this consensus is that Gage is wrong. So we'll just let you know that Gage is wrong for now, and we'll tell you the rest later. But he doesn't get to defend himself. So on over to the third segment. So we're going to talk a little. We're going to look a little deeper into the men's basketball, women's gym. I don't know if it was just the fact they were both playing Penn State this weekend or what, but there's a lot to talk about, a lot of things coming up. So
getting the end of the season, so
definitely. So we'll talk a little men's basketball. And first, the first question I just wanted to ask you, talk about a little bit, is what did you see in a game that Nebraska was supposed to win, where they're overmatching their opponents on some levels, and where they have favorable matchups, many different positions. What did you see from their mentality, and how much did you see them kind of have more of an edge this weekend? Do you think that's what you saw?
I feel it looks like our team maybe wanted it more than Penn State. I just thought we came out a lot stronger than they did. We started out really well. The problem with the game is we can't really take too much from it because the flow of the game was just so different than any other game we had this year because we shot so many free throws. So I don't really know if we ever got into the offense that we maybe wanted to get into because how the refs were calling the game. But I was impressed that we hit our free throws when we had the shot, and we ended up winning the game. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people, it was hard to find a rhythm. It was hard to find many things to take away. But I think when you look at a lot of individuals came up with moments, came up with 9 rebound performances for you, Bell. Ray started slowing some threes and then got it figured out and hit the couple shots you need. So I think that being able to stick to their guns and not have to say, hey, Dylan, you're going to have to get fouled 30 times this game and make 25 of your free throws, and not having to rely on just one thing. I think the fact that even though it was so disjointed and the specific players were able to do some different things and find success, I think that was a big thing for them. That can be something positive with the gauntlet they have remaining on the schedule.
Yes, that was a must-win game if there is one in this season, and we came out and we won it. So we move on, and then we go on to number 1 Indiana. Well, not number 1 anymore.
Not number 1 anymore, but the good news is the team that beat them at home, that lost their number 1 ranking, we get to play them at home. So the good news is we get to take on Illinois at home because they're the ones who took down number 1 Indiana.
Right.
So not really a lot of positives to come from having to face a team like that. Not saying you can't take positives from the game, but there's not a lot of things to look forward to, I guess is a better way of putting it, rather than saying there aren't any positives. So it's going to be tough, but you never know with the way college basketball has been this year. I don't think
there's not a dominant team.
But if we do go to 5 overtimes, I don't think that I think Miles is probably going to have to come into the game at that point if we make it to the 5th overtime. So hopefully Craig Smith and those guys are ready to jump in there. I don't think
Ray Gallegos wants to play 55 or 60 minutes
I don't think they're humanly capable.
And I don't think they are either.
All right, well, we'll move on here. To the next question is just kind of previewing the rest of the year. Okay. Obviously, Nebraska just hit the 500 mark again.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough to stay there. But there's some games. There's some Iowa games that are winnable. There's Minnesota at home. There's Wisconsin on the road. There's some wiggle room. What are some of the things that you're expecting to see the rest of the way?
We go to Indiana. That's going to be a very tough game. If we play like we did when we played at Michigan State, I feel like the consensus around the Husker Nation, we would be excited for that. We don't get blown out on the road. That's my ultimate goal for that game. Moving ahead, hopefully we can get a upset at home, whether it's against Michigan State or Minnesota, and then after that we gotta win. We gotta beat Iowa. We gotta go there and win that game. We have to beat them at home, and hopefully that'll give us some momentum going into the Big Ten tournament, which hopefully we can get a 10 or a 9 seed instead of being the 11 seed having to face a tough team in the first round of the tournament. So hopefully we can build on success and then ultimately win a game or 2 in the tournament.
And I think the tournament is our NCAA tournament for this year. Obviously, Nebraska fans want to get back to the NCAA tournament, and obviously they want to march past some. But I think that treating this tournament environment like that, because obviously if Nebraska's going to make it in and they're going to be a lower seed and they're going to have to pull some upsets, I think just having that upset mentality in a win-or-go-home situation, it might not be the NCAA tournament this year, but going to the Big Ten tournament and just seeing the new coaching staff, seeing the new field on the program, seeing the seniors mixed with some of the younger guys, I think it'll be important to see how those dynamics go through the tournament.
And the way I look at it is if we don't make it, say, to the CBI or the NIT tournament, the Big Ten tournament adds a little bit more practice and a little bit more more game time for someone like Siobhan Shields or David Rivers, some of the younger players.
And to play in a big environment against some really talented guys.
Because we're likely going to play,
a
a Minnesota or someone like that in the first round.
Exactly.
So we're going to be playing good teams.
Well, there we are. That's our Nebraska ball breakdown for the day. More games to come at home. We got some more excitement at Vandy still this year. There's still some hope on the horizon for maybe an upset, maybe something to happen. So, obviously we don't want to just say it all comes down to beating Penn State and beating Iowa and maybe winning a game in the tournament, but we'll just kind of see how these last weeks play out. And
take a game by game, media timeout by media timeout, and see what happens.
That could get awfully slow with the pace of the last couple games.
Well,
but
that's
we'll see
true.
How it goes. All right, we'll move on here now. We'll talk a little women's gymnastics. Yesterday we were able to, although we had some issues with the connection to Devaney and doing it live from the floor, we had a pre-show. And what I did, and it was probably a little more confusing yesterday, is I took some season averages from what the girls had already posted this year for the Nebraska women's gymnastics team. I had taken out some of the outlying performances, some of the slips, some of the falls, and kind of boosted up their average a little bit. So I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I gave them a little bit of edge what their season average was and projected that Nebraska would come in just under 197 based on the scores last year. And I even went out and put all the different the event scores and projected what they would score on the events based on the scores they've been putting out this year. So now I want to show you exactly how wrong I was in a good way, because Nebraska just lit up every single event, won all 4 event titles, won the all-around, and dominated Penn State in the team totals. So we'll bring up the graph here. So we'll start. As you can see, here are the totals that I came up with for what Nebraska had shown they were capable of throughout the early years. They had some people who were dealing with some health, dealing with finding their way in the rhythm. Not all their all-arounders were going at all the different times. So they'd had some ups and downs, but these were the projections I came up with what's kind of the upside and what's kind of what you could see. So we'll start with the vault, where Nebraska had they had a split of the event title with a 9.925 between Jessie DeZiel and Brittany Skinner. Brittany Skinner's been in and out, but now that she's come back on vault, you can see that's really where she's honing in. Nebraska's that was actually their best event, even though Nebraska has been nationally ranked in the beam earlier this year, even though that's where their best event score has been throughout the year. So they come in, they use the 2.99s above, they win, got off to an early start. From then it was just all downhill for Penn State the rest of the way. They didn't even come remotely. I don't think they edged back in any of the different events the rest of the night. But Nebraska comes out and puts that score up. And then from there, they go to the bars, where, like we said earlier, Janelle Giblin leads the way with a 9.950.
Janelle's dominating.
Oh, and everybody just blew up about it. All the, there's volleyball players, there's football players, everybody in attendance, but all the athletes kind of tweet about different things. You could see that everybody there who was being active, that performance, that we had a picture that was posted and everybody just went nuts in those pictures, so that performance was a big part of the night. And that, there's a fall, and obviously whenever you see a fall on bars,
it's a little scary.
It's a little scary. It changes the mood a little bit. But just for her to turn back around, and then after that they post those performances, I think that that's what senior leadership is. And you can see those first 2 events, 49.375, 49.350. You don't really get that many event scores that reach up into that level. But then from there, they even kept it going. And this one I think is in large part thanks to Jennifer Lauer. Took the event title on the beam. 49.275 is the team total, but she did a real good job of stabilizing some things. The other Huskers, obviously they can still go somewhere, and I think that this is one of the areas where you can see this beam score be their best score in any given meet. That even with the 49.375 and the 49.3, they can go 49.4. They've beaten that mark this year. They have a lot of upside in this, and they have a lot of people who can put 9.9s. That in most of their things, they have 2-3 people who you can reasonably expect a 9.9 from. But on beam, they have 4 people that on every given night could go out there and put a 9.9.
I know Coach Kendig's really excited about the beam.
About what they have on beam.
Yes.
And we'll wrap it up on the floor, where Nebraska again just went nuts and just exploded. Emily Wong, Jessie DeZiel tie for a title again at the 9.925.
That's a broken record between them.
No kidding. But and the nice part is that when one of them goes out there and does something big, it doesn't discourage the other one. They only want to go.
They're
bigger.
open to competition,
and they're the first people that high five each other when they get off and they're the first people that. I think that I don't know exactly what's going on, but I think we had some no diggity, some freestyle, among the team, and little things like that. And I think that those things are what help them keep it light. That even though they're out there and they're either one of them can be the number 1 contender for the Big Ten all around this year. And if you went into the Big Ten last year, you would have said, hey, Jessie DeZiel is probably the favorite from this, and Emily
Right.
Wong comes in and wins it. But it didn't take away from the team effort. They still took the team title. Jessie DeZiel still comes in as the freshman of the year. So when you have somebody who's the freshman of the year but won more all-arounds last year, and then somebody who won the all-around at the Big Ten, those people, they push each other. They go through all the different events. You could reasonably see them all, go 9-9 on any of the events. Both of those gymnasts, not just them, but even people like freshman Holly Blansky on floor could go to a 9-9.
There's not a lot of teams that can say they have a lot of girls that can go 9-9.
No, and just have the capability to put out a clean routine once. And, it seems dumb and it seems simple to say, hey, can they hit it once? But in a lot of these competitions, you see girls that just have routines that they have to pull back, have things they have to pull back because they can't get there. But that's not the problem for this team. The upside is there, and even though they put out a score like they did, breaking the 197 barrier, they still have more in the tank. They can still move up. They're number 8 right now. If they do a couple more of these, they'll get in the top 5. But with where their score puts them, they could move up to number 3, number 2, number 1 by the end of the year, and that's not something that's beyond this team. That they can just keep going, keep getting a little bit better each meet. So as you can see, we'll bring it up here one last time. All four of the events, what we had, and it's not just what we projected. These are based off of averages. So those are the good side of the numbers they've been posting this year. So those are numbers that are skewed in their direction, and they still, in every single event, went above and beyond the numbers, even when they were skewed in their direction. So that's just something that shows that it's paying off. It shows the talent Nebraska still has in their gym, and it shows that, the story of this team is not going to be told now. And that's a good thing, because last year the story of it was early on. They broke 197 in their debut. They go to number 1 in the country, and I don't think they ever got back to where they were at, and as far as rankings, as far as score-wise.
I think if you ask Coach Kendick, the rankings don't matter. He wants to see the girls perform at a high level and then end the season strong. So
and and that's exactly the pace they're on.
Right.
Well, that does it for our breakdown here in our third segment, and that wraps up our Corn-Fed Sports in the Morning. Like I said, we've now hammered down some of the details, the high-def broadcasting, some of the different things, and ad-free viewing up to a certain extent. So if we don't get too popular, you guys can watch us ad-free, but if we get all the clicks, that hopefully we can get you guys interested and bring you in. So pretty soon we're going to start we have some people in our studio now who are helping us with producing and helping us some little things. So we'll be able to bring you guys right into our studio with questions, with maybe even Skyping you guys in, doing some little things like that. So stay tuned, stay involved. This is also going to be the first show that we're going to post as a replay, and that we'll have on our website, and then we're going to publicize on our website. So if you're watching this on replay, thanks for tuning in. Tomorrow morning, Tuesday, we will be on our schedule. We will be broadcasting at 10 a.m., and we'll be starting. There's no more questions. We have everything figured out. We have everything ready to go for the rest of the semester. So Corn-Fed Sports in the Morning, 10 a.m.s from Monday through Thursday. And then on Friday, we'll be doing an afternoon show to kind of bring things to the weekend. So that does it for our Corn-Fed Sports in this Monday morning. I'm Pat Radigan.
I'm Gage Beek.
Thanks for joining us.